This is Jeremy Martin, and we're here at the 31st Annual La Jolla Energy Conference, back in person. It's a pleasure after over 2 years to be back in person. And we've welcomed this year to joining us Ignacio Horvath, the CEO of ANCAP, the National Oil Company of Uruguay.
Thank you, Jeremy, for having us over. It's a very exciting venue. We have a lot of exchange with colleagues and around the world, and very interested in looking forward ideas in the venue.
Debating the future of Latin America's energy sector. So that's exactly what we're talking about here at the La Jolla Conference. You have a very specific topic you've been discussing, and you were on the hydrogen panel this morning. Talk a little bit about that. Uruguay has done a lot of work in green energy, did a lot of work in renewable deployment, and now is looking to develop a hydrogen roadmap. Tell us about that.
Yes, Uruguay has moved forward, in the hydrogen business. We started with decarbonizing our electric grid. Now it's over 90% green, and we export green electricity. Mm-hmm. And now we need to move forward to decarbonize the rest of the economy, mainly the uses of heavy loads and those that need heat. So that's why Uruguay has engaged on this the hydrogen roadmap, where we are deploying it. And it has 3 different phases. We started with a pilot project. Projects are between $20 and $50 million that are mainly for moving loads, heavy transport decarbonization, so trucking, using fuel cells. We're going to award the pilot projects this November. So we are very glad we have gotten into that. And the second phase, we are looking at onshore projects to use the other vectors in hydrogen, be it synthetic fuels using CO2. We are looking at projects capturing biogenic CO2 and making synthetic fuel, green jet, and the HBO route. And then third, we look into the medium longer term, the offshore generation, electricity generation.
So offshore wind.
Offshore wind, okay. To produce hydrogen and export it. We are launching the round of offshore bids for the blocks in the first half of next year. We're going to have 10 blocks for wind generation, about 500 square kilometers each, with a median potential of generation of 3.5 gigawatts each. That's about 320,000 tons of hydrogen production per year, each of the blocks.
So I want to come back to some of that supply and demand question, but first I want to clarify, when you were with ANCAP, I mentioned the National Oil Company of Uruguay, and you talk about pilot projects and now these bid round. Is ANCAP a partner? How's that structured?
So the hydrogen roadmap, it's a government initiative, and ANCAP, as the national oil company, is catalyzing and pushing some of this agenda. So we are putting infrastructure into place. We are putting our experience in offshore management in the oil and gas, the blocks. So we are a vehicle to push the agenda, the hydrogen agenda from the government. Again, we've got a lot of infrastructure that we, from our, hydrocarbon business, from the refining and distribution, that can be used for, the hydrogen routes, the different routes. We've got, as I mentioned earlier, the fuel cell, compressing hydrogen and put it in for transport. We've got the synthetic fuels, hydrogenated vegetable oils, and then with a longer vision, medium to long term, we've got the ammonia as a vehicle for hydrogen.
And the ammonia will be more of the export market. So let's talk a little bit about domestic, anchoring the first phase, and then going to the sort of export, or how do you see that evolution?
So as I said, we are awarding the first subsidies for the local. It's a local transportation. So
that we purely domestic.
That would be purely domestic,
right.
And that is in November. Okay. So we want to get experience on the hydrogen generation and moving it in the economy, and then move to the second phase where we're looking at mainly at export markets.
Okay. And the export markets would be?
The ones that we're studying, it looks sustainable aviation fuel is the one that makes the most sense at the moment. The projects that are more likely to be successful are the ones with sustainable aviation fuel.
So Ignacio, at the end of the panel this morning, and I thought it was a fascinating question for everyone, it was about where is hydrogen? And the panel was called Hype or Game Changer. And the specific question from the audience was, is it still experimental or is it real?
So the technology, it was a great question, no? But the technology is there. The challenges are scaling up. There's challenges on the supply chain to get the equipment, right. The amount of equipment, the amount of electrolyzers. So there's the challenge, building the infrastructure and building the capacity. So that's where we need to progress. There's some very good initiatives at the IRA that are going to help.
Yeah, no, well, the overall funding and reduction of the cost curve, right? Yeah.
And the availability of equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Ignacio, it's been so great to have you here at the La Jolla Conference. I hope you'll come back again and update us next year, just exactly how those pilot projects are going and how it's looking in Uruguay.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and the Institute of Americas. It has been a great venue, as I said earlier, and, we'll be back here.
That's the best endorsement. All right. Thank you.